We're going to be sewing a hat next. We talked a little bit about your cap driver when we took it off of the machine. So again, hold it around the plastic and the metal. Make sure you don't hit your needles. This goes on the same way as it does on any other hoop, so you're going to get this underneath those little metal clips and just push it on. When I first put a hat on, I like to move this back so that the edge of the cap driver is even with the edge of the needle plate. So we're going to come up and we're going to use the up arrow on our operations box or our control panel. And I'm just going to push the up button. And that should be fine right there. I have this set up for low speed on the frame, and the reason I have it set for low speed is because I find that it works easier with hats. You're going to start with your hat, and it's already been hooped. Hold your hat sideways, and you're just going to guide it on. Now I'm going to show you something in the back here that you need to be aware of. And you push your hat straight back. Now if you'll notice, the hat frame is going underneath your cap driver, and you always want it on top, not underneath. Once you get it there, you're going to spin the hat up until the notch in the cap frame matches up with the notch on the cap driver. Then we're going to push the hat in from the bottom first. So you just go down to the bottom of your hoop and you're going to push it in, and you can grab the back of the cap driver if you want, and you can push it in. Then you come back up and push the top in. Then you're going to clamp it down. You might need to move the bill of the hat out of the way so that the clamps go down easily. And when you get good at it, you can actually do it with one hand. And now we're all set and ready to start lining up the cap so that we can sew it. We're going to be sewing a 3-color ribbon, and this is going to be red, white, and blue. So we are going into F3, which is your settings button. We have to rotate the design upside down. All hats are sewn at 180 degrees. We want to stay with the very first thing. It's called basic settings, so we're just going to hit set. When this opens, we're going down to angle, which is number 3, and I'm pushing the down arrow to get there, and then push set. We want it upside down. We're going to type in 180 and set. We can now escape out of this menu, and that'll bring us back into our settings menu. The next thing we want to do is assign our colors. So we're going to come down to needle settings. Use your arrow, down arrow, and hit set. Your colors, if you remember from earlier, the colors are going to be going in here. So the first thing that sews, I want to make red. Red on my thread rack in the back is color number 1, so I'm going to leave it, I'm going to put in a 1. It jumps to the next color. I want white next, which is color 13 on this machine, so plus 10, 3. And the last color is blue, which is color 4, so I'll press 4. Now, if you remember from before, the way that we keep these colors in here is we press F6 for OK. That will take us out of our menu and bring us back into the settings menu. We're finished in here, so I'm just going to press escape. And your design is rotated for you. The next thing we're going to do is center the machine to needle 1. So I'm going to press the number 1 button, and the head's going to move over. Once you have it centered to needle 1, we need to line up our hat so that our hoop is centered. What you're going to do is actually use the needle, and I like to pull the needle down, and we're just going to be going left and right to make sure that that needle is lined up with the center seam. And this actually seems to be pretty good. But if you were going to use your left and right arrows on your keypad, and these arrows would move your hoop left and right. The next ones that we're going to use are the up and down buttons, because we want to center our hoop from front to back. And I'm going to give you a little formula. I'm using a ruler. Now, my formula for doing a hat, and you'll do this until you get used to sewing hats, take the height of the design and divide it by F2, so you know where the middle point is. We want to leave about a 1/2 inch margin between the metal band and the bottom of the design. So if you take half of your design and add a half to it, 1/2 inch to it, that'll show you where the center of your design is going to be. This design is approximately 1.4 inches tall. Divided in half gives me 0.7. Adding a 1/2 inch to it gives me 1.2. So I already marked my ruler. And I'm going to put my ruler up against the hat. I'm going to pull down the needle, and I'm going to move this so that the needle lines up with that little mark. And I'm going to use the down arrow to do this. Just push it down and it will start moving your frame. We're just going to move this until it lines up with that little arrow. Now again, this is just to get you in the vicinity. You'll be checking it, and when you trace your design, you'll be looking at it and you'll be deciding whether or not it's in the right place. So we've got our hoop centered from side to side, and we've got it centered from front to back. The next thing we're going to do is trace the design. Now on flats, when we trace a design, we always watch the laser, but the laser could actually be a problem with the hats because your hat moves. It's not flat up against the needle plate, so it does move. So what we're going to do when we trace it is we're going to watch the back of the presser foot for needle 1. So we're going to move over to the side, okay? So to start with, we're going to come into F5, which is your ready button, because that's what you're using to trace. We're going to use exclude trace because that's the more accurate one. And we're pressing set. And then when this comes up, you're going to see a save and you're going to see a frame button. And we're always going to use F2 for frame. Now when I push this, we're going to be watching the back of needle 1. Once you're finished and it traced okay, we're going to hit escape to get out, and then escape again to get out of your ready menu. Now our speed on the machine is set at 750. You can sew hats anywhere from 600 to 650 or from 600 to 750. A lot of it depends on your design. If you start getting a lot of thread breaks, chances are your design is not digitized really well. You also should have a design that pretty much sews from bottom to top and from center out, left or right. And that's a good hat design, and it will not create registration problems as long as it's digitized properly. So we're going to turn our sewing speed down to 650. I always recommend that you start somewhere in the vicinity of the lowest speed possible, so 600, 650. I know this design sews fine, but until you get used to your designs, I really recommend you start at the lowest speed, and you can always increase the speed as you're going along. So we're all set, and I'm going to hit start, and it's going to start to sew. Now once your hat is finished, you can just take the first hat off and then put the second hat on and just hit start, and it will sew for you. So I'm going to show you how to take the hat off of the cap frame. First thing you're going to do is pick up your red clamps, and we did this earlier when we took the cap driver off of the machine. It should have been up. You're going to reach underneath and pull out from the metal on the hat, pull out the bottom first, and then come up to the sides and grab a hold of the metal. You can use those red clamps to put your thumbs up against. Just pull and push. Rotate the hat sideways and take it out. Basically, you're doing the reverse of what you did when you put it on. And that's how you sew a hat.